Hello, coffee people. My name is Irina Sharipova. I'm a coffee educator and consultant. I'm the host of the podcast Coffee Business in the Middle East, where we discuss about everything related to the coffee business in the Middle East region. I speak with the coffee leaders of the industry here, such as coffee shop owners, coffee trading companies, coffee owners, and coffee professionals. In the fourth episode, I speak with Necip Camcigil about building cafe chain, creating a community and loyalty amongst customers, and effective cash flow management. Hello, Necip.
Hello.
How are you today?
Irina.
Yes. Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad to have you here. Before we start, can you share us the story, how you started your coffee project, let's say, cafe, and you have already 2 branches. Can you tell us what happened before you start this business?
Sure. So I worked for quite a while in the corporate world. I was working in Unilever, then Johnson & Johnson, and then my last job was in a German pharmaceutical called Boehringer Ingelheim. And around 2013, 14, I really kind of wanted to get out of the corporate world. So I had a few half-finished business plans on my laptop, and I quit my job and left in October 2014 with the idea of opening a coffee shop, a cafe, restaurant, cafe. Well, actually, I quit with the idea of opening a vending machine business. So I wanted to sell salads and sandwiches and healthy snacks through vending machines. And I wanted to put these in office locations. So I left to write the business plan for this. I think I had started writing the business plan before I left, but I was kind of like finishing the business plan. And in order to, stock this vending machine with different salads and sandwiches, I needed a catering company to do it for me. So I went around town with a menu that I'd done myself, tried to get some catering companies to give me a pricing and a tasting and that kind of stuff, which I got to the point where, I had picked a catering company and the food they had produced was really great and I was very excited about it, but the price at which they were going to give it to me was not really the price at which I could really make a serious profit. So I could mark it up by a little bit, but also I wanted to do fresh food daily. So anything that I threw away, I would be throwing away a very high cost. And then in order to kind of make the cost of, let's say, 1 salad or sandwich, I would have to sell like 4 or 5 the next day just to make back the one that I threw the day before. So then the idea kind of pivoted into, well, let's produce our own food for our own vending machines. Let's open a small kitchen, and then we'll supply ourselves. While looking for a small kitchen, the plan changed again. We said, okay, let's do a small kitchen with 3 or 4 tables so that we can also have a little bit of dine-in. And it kind of became a cafe concept, which was only really the first step into a vending machine business. So it was going to be a cafe that became a vending machine business. So this cafe concept, I wrote up a kind of concept for it, and I started going around town looking for a place. Originally I looked in Alcoz, where kind of the spaces were a little bit larger, and Dubai Design District was just coming up around then, and I remember they had a good website or something and you could apply. And I applied maybe in December of 2014, and then I heard back from them. Well, actually, I'd given up on them because I didn't hear back from them. But then in February or March, I heard back from them, and they, working through an agency, showed me a couple of units, and we kind of, again, it grew a little bit bigger than what we wanted, but we settled on a unit, and we opened One Life there in Building 5, Dubai Design District, and we're actually the oldest F&B in Dubai Design District. And then over time, the vending machine side of the business completely disappeared as an idea, as a concept. I no longer really wanted to do that. My views on the F&B business changed quite a bit in that time. And I now think people really want to interact with humans when they're buying food. So doing a business which doesn't involve humans is a bit not really interesting for us.
Wow.
Yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Wow, such a story. Okay, so you transfer from the small catering service, right, to a cafe, right,
Yeah,
as I understood
yeah.
correctly. So, and how you came up with this idea? Yeah, I understood you needed human, but you realized that, okay, I need the space to build up the kitchen, I need the team. So who helped you with this decision? So how did you find these people, right people to like start again, let's say?
I mean, in my case, like a lot of things just happen purely by luck, and also with no real knowledge. So when you look back, like you realize how kind of unaware you were how things work. I think in terms of hiring people, the first person I hired was Kelvin Kelly, who's now a partner in the business. He's our head chef and my partner. And it was purely by luck. I think I put a post on Indeed and he applied. I called him, like I came home one day, I saw he had applied. I saw he had applied like 90 seconds ago. So I said, let me call him to like freak him out a little bit. I called him, we met up. Again, he was like a higher level chef than what I wanted or could afford at that time. So I wanted like a very junior chef, but he had quite a bit of experience. But I really liked his energy, I really liked his enthusiasm. So I hired him, but then we only needed to hire maybe 4 or 5 more people. Like our business started extremely small. Now we have more than 60 people. But when we opened, like on the first week, I think we were 6 of us. So it was just me plus 5. And so I got Kelvin, and the way I got the other 4 was, I think I put a post out on Indeed or Instagram saying, come to this location and we're just going to do live interviews, like on the go. There was a queue from our door, like all the way around the corner.
No way.
And I think I have one picture. If you go to like One Life D3's Instagram from 7 years ago, you'll see one picture of all these people waiting. And they would come in and we'd say, hi, how are you? Good. What's your name? This. Where are you working? The interview would last maybe like 10, 15 seconds. And we were just trying to feel like in the first 15 seconds, any energy that we got from that person. Are they smiling? Do they seem interesting? And we would just shortlist a few of them. And I remember I had a pen and I was writing on some CVs like in Turkish so that they wouldn't like, I didn't want them to know if I'm writing good or not good or whatever. So I just write in Turkish. And then Kelvin also did a few of them and he was writing in English. I remember one of the girls we hired, Kelvin had put phenomenal on her CV, but we ended up firing her after like 4 or 5 weeks. So she wasn't phenomenal. And the D3 security came and they told us like, what's going on here? You can't just do that, because really like there was maybe 50, 100, more than 100 people just standing around the corner. And they freaked out a little bit. They weren't really used to it. And I was like, yeah, what's the problem? We're interviewing people. So that's how we got the first team. Now from those 6, there's myself, Kelvin, there's Sami, who is our head chef in our JVC branch, who started as a dishwasher 7 years ago. Now he's the head chef in JVC. And the other 3 are not with us. But 3 of the original 6 are still there.
I'm curious, how come you magneted lots of people like since the beginning? Like, what was the interest to your project? Like, did you put something in the concept? How did you describe your company, like your cafe, back then, and how it differs from what you have right now?
Look, honestly, I don't think it was, well, how in terms of getting the concept off the ground, definitely in the beginning, the concept was a little bit different. One Life started as a place that did stews. Every day we would do different stews. And the salads, the idea was that we would have these like layered salads in glass jars and you'd buy them and you'd shake them. The product changed quite a bit. The concept also changed quite a bit. Like now it's more of a restaurant. Back then it was more of a cafe. We still kind of identify as a cafe. But in terms of getting people to apply for the job, it was much more about, I think at any given time, there's a lot of people looking for work in Dubai. I mean, it's just one of those places. Dubai is the magnetic thing, not one life. So lots of people in Dubai are looking for work, and when you do an open call, people will show up. Like even whatever concept you do today, if you put an open call and say, we're looking for baristas, waiters, whatever, people will always come. And even when you don't put that call out, every week we get maybe 10, 15 CVs. So it's just a constant flow.
I see. But what is your purpose right now for hiring people? Do you have like a blueprint for them? Like, do you describe like particular team for you, or because sometimes if you are an owner and you hire people, they, like your employees, they represent you, right?
Yeah.
And they translate your values. Is it the same with your case, or you have a HR who represents you and you describe him, which people you need?
No, I always hire directly. It'll be me or someone from the team will recommend someone, but I'll always meet people. And I mean, it's not a very sophisticated process. It's really, does this person come across as friendly, nice, kind? Not everyone we hire is extroverted. A lot of people we hire are extroverted, so they're very smiley, and they're like in our business, you kind of need to be able to make a good first impression with customers. But some people we hire are more quiet, and it takes time to know them. We do a trial usually, so if we're looking to hire and we like someone, we'll say, come work for 1 week or 2 weeks, we'll pay you like a daily wage. And then in that 1 or 2 weeks, we get to know them a lot better. Like the interview itself, you can form an impression, but you can't really see how people work.
Sure,
but with the trial, it helps a lot.
Yeah, agree. Okay, I also have a question. So the cafe industry nowadays, especially, highly competitive. And you have the branch in Dubai Design District. It's always crowded, I guess, especially in the winter time. And what differs you? Again, like not as maybe as a concept, like why people come to your place? Like, how would you describe your place? Like, is it like more for Europeans or for locals, or you don't differentiate, or you just have a concept and you either go to it or no?
I think in terms of nationality, I think we attract a diverse crowd that represents the diversity of Dubai. So I honestly think like whatever the population makeup of Dubai is, that's kind of the population makeup of One Life. So you might get like 10% Emirati, 30-40% Indian, 30-40% European, and just a mix of everyone. It's for me a very Dubai concept for the people of Dubai, and it attracts people who live and work in Dubai. In terms of like differentiating, I think a big part of it is we've always done business in a way to add value to customers' lives. So it is a business, but money is not our primary focus. It's always about giving good quality food, beverages, coffee, more importantly, great service. So when we sit and talk to our staff on a weekly basis, so we have a weekly meeting in JVC, a weekly meeting in D3, a lot of the role plays and the scenarios are about how do you build a connection with the people that come to One Life. With customers who have been to us 4, 5, 10, 100 times, there's that connection. I've seen customers hugging my staff, kind of unusual scenes for a Dubai restaurant or cafe. But with new customers, sometimes it takes a little bit more time. Like we're very used to people we know and faces we know, so we're very good with those people, and then the relationship's extremely open. If something is bad, they just tell us this wasn't good today, and then we investigate, we look at it, but it's not really, like it's a very personal relationship. But then you have people we don't know, first timers, and there I definitely think it's more of a challenge, but what I try to do with the staff is get them to be able to really give a warm welcome and good service to those people. So over the years, like one comment I got a lot is, we like your food, but we love your staff, which is, part compliment, part, I don't know. It's always nice to hear, but genuinely, I think the people of One Life make a huge difference to the experience, and that's why a lot of people come back.
How to maintain that hospitality? Like, as I understood, yes, you have weekly meetings, but it's really hard, I guess, especially, yes, working with people in hospitality industry, how to always, especially since you're since 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
So 15 we got licensed and we did a couple of events,
Yeah,
and
many
then we
years.
opened in 16.
Yeah, and you're a great example, and I always speak about your project, like you maintain quality, you're always driven with lots of people, and I see the energy around your project. How to maintain that, and how always try to like persuade more people to come, not persuade, let's say, how to attract more people, and also how to maintain this service with your staff, because this many years, really, not everyone can handle it.
Look,
as business owners.
I think hospitality, different people have different views. My view is it's not about the money. It's not about start a cafe, multiply by 20, 30 branches, and then sell it to someone. The way we approach it is, on any given day in Dubai Design District, except now because Kelvin's on holiday and I just came back, you will have 2 owners on site in our D3 branch. So Kelvin is there and I'm there. So we're not trying to get out of, you call it the floor. Like, we're on the floor, we're there in the operation. We're not like, okay, let's make enough money so that we can hire someone to do our jobs and we can like sit on the beach all day. Like, I mean, not together, like, but whatever. We enjoy it. Like, I enjoy being in the restaurant, I enjoy serving customers, I enjoy talking to customers every day, and we're there every day. So in D3, I can definitely tell you, the fact that we're there and we're leading by example and our staff are mirroring our behavior is a big help. But then in JVC, I definitely can't tell you the same thing because I'm there maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hours a day, and Kelvin's there the same 1.5 hours a day. We go there in the morning, then we go to D3. But in JVC, what we did is we took, some of our strongest people from D3 and we moved them to JVC. So people who had been with us for 3 or 4 or 5 years, so they understood the culture. And then some of our new hires were also hired based purely on culture. And actually, we put some of our strongest people in the JVC branch. And then when we go there, it's about the same kind of level of service and communication with the customers. But apart from all that, one thing I believe, and I used to say this a lot, like people used to say to me, like, your staff seems so happy or they're so nice and stuff. I don't think you can fake it. So if they're not happy, they're not going to be able to fake it and be happy. And making them happy is also my job. So their job is to make customers happy, and my job is to make them happy. So
how do you make them happy then?
I mean,
what is your inner culture?
Look, everybody likes money. Obviously, everybody needs money. So we try to give them a fair wage, a fair salary. We treat them with respect. We treat them as equals. We don't really have a management style that is very aggressive, that puts people down. We try to be much more collaborative. So they have a voice. It's not and I always say this, like, people say, oh, you have your own business, it's so nice, you don't, have a boss. And I'm like, no, I have like 60 bosses now, because really, you might not realize it unless you have your own business, but you have to make everyone who works for you happy, because these people represent you, they represent your business, and they have the capacity to lift your business, or they have the capacity to, kill your business. So if they're not happy, you're in trouble. The primary thing is treat them fairly, be kind to them, listen to their problems. When they have issues, try to help them. And because we're there every day, they have direct access to us. So it doesn't matter what your position is in One Life, you can just come. I'm sitting on the table there, I don't have an office. You want to talk to me, come sit, talk to me. It's very easy, although they prefer to WhatsApp me for some reason.
Yeah, that's good. So you show them that you're open, because most of the people, especially from hospitality, if they used to work somewhere, maybe in some hotels and restaurants, where the service is really corporate, how to say
Corporate,
correct?
yeah.
Corporate. Yeah, they have strong rules, and you can't go right or left. So you sort of represent like a open mindset, and that hospitality and service, it's fine. Just you have to be friendly and nice. Just be you, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good approach. And in my previous project, I also experienced that if you if you start work with such company as yours, for instance, where with a friendly staff, with friendly boss, of course it should be discipline, right? But it shouldn't be like a toxic relationship inside. And I see how people are different when they start work with such a friendly environment, and from this corporate culture, it's really different. And it's hard to show them, listen, don't be afraid of me. We are good here. We're in one boat, but people are very afraid. Have you faced with that people when you hire, that they're completely afraid of you since the beginning and you change them somehow?
Look, I have one person, I won't say his name, but he's always very quiet around me, and he gets tongue-tied and he can't really talk. And one day I told him, like, why you? And then Kelvin told me, oh, he's afraid of you. And I went to him, I said, why are you afraid of me? Like, have I done anything to make you afraid of me? And he just looked at me and he said, you're the boss, I'm supposed to be afraid of you. I don't know, like you said, look, even when you hire people, it came to a point where we prefer to hire inexperienced people, because someone who's quite experienced, it takes a very long time to change them and to say, listen, forget, I mean, not that they didn't learn anything, and not that I'm saying we're the only ones who know how to do hospitality, but we do it in a specific way. And if you came from somewhere else that does it in a very different way to us, then it takes months to say, listen, no, don't do that. Like, for example, upselling. I don't like upselling. So if you order something, I don't like saying, okay, do you want a Coke with that? Do you want this with that? Let me get you that. Like, I don't like it. But people it's become such second nature to some people that they can't stop it. And then I tell them, listen, you don't need to do that. Like, if they want something more, they'll tell you they want it more. So now we got to the point where we're trying to hire like less experienced people and then train them up. It's much easier for us, usually. But then, like certain places that we hired from, like we had a few guys in the kitchen that used to be in Baker and Spice. They were fantastic, you know. They can bring their culture, their knowledge, their recipes and their kitchen ideas, and you know, implement them in our way as well.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of both.
Yeah, interesting. I have a question regarding locations. So you have fantastic locations, GVC and D3.
Oh yeah, I met you. Yeah, you came to the GVC one first, right?
How come you got this location? So as I understood, you found D3 at the beginning when it was growing, right? So because everyone, I think, really wants to be in D3.
Yeah.
So it's like by chance. Did you know that D3 is going to be like, how to say, like attractive for such amount of people, or it just appeared to you by chance? And about GVC as well.
Look, D3 for a good year and a half was not a very attractive location, to be honest with you, in the very beginning. But the reason we really believed in it, and when I say we, myself, Kelvin, even my mom came with me and we walked around places in D3 together, there was a tremendous energy. And I know like it's very untangible to talk about energy. You know, I talked about it with people, there's an energy, with places there's an energy, but you feel something, right? And other people feel that too. Like I've worked in Jebel Ali Free Zone, I've worked in Healthcare City, I've been around the IFC. I still think D3 is the best place to work in Dubai in terms of the vibe, the energy around the place, the type of people that work there. In my mind, when I walked around D3 the first time, I had a very clear picture in my head of what One Life was. And then when I went to D3, I very much felt, okay, this concept and this location are like, you know, a match made in heaven. This concept belongs in this location.
Wow.
So it was a very strong feeling, and it took a little bit of time after we opened for D3 to really become what it is. But from the very beginning, they were attracting the best kind of, not the best offices, but very strong brands, creatives, design, architecture, all these kind of companies. And then the people working in those kind of companies were very much a profile that appreciated what we had to offer at the time. For JVC, it was completely different. So the architect who, we expanded in D3 in 2019. So 2016, 17, and the beginning of 18, we did quite well. We also had a water leakage that was going into the unit next to us. So D3 said to us, you need to fix this water leakage. Your kitchen is leaking into the unit next to you. We said, okay, we could fix it, or we could rent this unit if it's available still. Because originally someone had rented it, but then they pulled out. I don't know if they pulled out because of the water leak. But we said, okay, let us take it. In 2019, we expanded there, and we built the much bigger version. You've not seen the smaller version. So the smaller version is almost the same size as the JVC location. When we did the expansion, we did it with an architect from D3 called Fadi Saraiddin. So Fadi did that with us in 2019. Then in 2021, or let's say, sorry, 2020, someone approached Fadi with the idea of a co-living building. I don't think they had the location, they didn't have anything, but Fadi designed this co-living building with a guy called Bas, who is now our landlord in JVC at the Hive. Bas didn't know that Fadi did One Life, but this is what I heard from Fadi, and I think Bas also confirmed it. If not, he can write in the comments below that it's not true. But Bas told Fadi, for the cafe, I'm thinking of something like One Life. So Fadi said, well, I designed One Life, I can put you in touch with them. So then we never really went looking for a second location. I mean, we would take meetings all the time and just see people, meet people. It wouldn't really go anywhere. But then when Bas showed us the presentation for what the Hive was going to be, which is kind of what it is today, a very cool co-living space, nice common areas, beautiful pool, a different kind of concept for Dubai, we were like, okay, this looks really cool, and we signed on to it. At the time, I probably hadn't been to JVC for like 5-6 years. So I remember, I mean, you're new in Dubai, but JVC has been around for a long time. JVC used to be just desert and few townhouses, and it was like a very odd place. But obviously it changed, and it changed a lot. But we signed up, and to be honest with you, I regretted it immediately. I was like, because I would go there at night, and I just wouldn't see people. There's no one around, there's nothing going on. And I really felt like, where are the people, where are the people? And Bas kept saying, no, dude, he loves saying dude. So like, dude, it's going to be amazing, dude. So I said, okay, fine. And we did everything. We were supposed to open in January or February, but we opened in April. We opened in the middle of Ramadan, 2022. The first 3, 4, 5 months is summer. So there's Ramadan, then there's May, June, July, August, September. Up to August, honestly, I still kept thinking, this is a big mistake. Not a big mistake, but it's a mistake. And then once the weather cooled down a bit in September, October, that's when really the JVC location started doing really, really well. You know, knock on marble. It was, and we got lucky. I mean, it's a great location now when you look at it, but if you looked at it 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, again, you'd be like, it's a very weird place to open. But one thing that we didn't realize, or one thing you wouldn't realize maybe in JVC, is there's a lot of people there, but maybe they're not like out walking around the streets. There's not really a pedestrian life. But once you build a nice place there, like people will come. And I feel like JVC has room for 10 more cool cafes, maybe 20. Like there's so many people there. They don't want to necessarily leave JVC every time they want to have a pizza or a coffee. So there should be more in JVC.
So now you're doing well in JVC.
Yeah, now it's doing really well. Like honestly, We had a conservative estimate and an optimistic estimate, and it's doing better than our optimistic estimate.
No way.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's a different vibe. It's a bit different to D3, but it's still got the One Life DNA. The guys there are still very friendly and cool with staff. Cool with customers.
I think that you got an image already because you've been published to many magazines. I've seen lots of articles about you while preparing to the interview with you. Also, I've seen you do lots of events like music and some workshops, and especially in D3 you have the second floor for events. You even rent it out. How do you foster like the sense of community and loyalty amongst your customers?
I mean, community is partially because we've been there for 7-8 years, and a lot of the people who come to us have also been there for that period. And in that period, a lot of people in D3 have changed jobs 1 or 2 or 3 times, but they've still stayed in D3. You know, so they might move from one architecture firm to another. Look, it gets to a point, it sounds crazy saying this, but I've seen women who have been like pregnant 2 times or 3 times since I've been serving them. And it's that long and kind of deep, the relationship, where we just know them. We know them by name, we know their kids' names, we know where they went on holiday. It is a community cafe, and I think in both locations it's the same. So when I go to JVC, I'm kind of a foreigner to JVC, to the location. So I don't really know the customers, but I see that our staff there, they know them by first name, they know what their favorite coffee is. And then over time, the relationship goes from, okay, now I know your name. Oh, next visit, now I know which coffee you like. Next visit, I know that when you order the cheeseburger, you want a single patty instead of a double patty. Then you get to know like really quite a lot about the person. And then in terms of the events and stuff, the space and the design of the space, it attracts a certain type of event. It has a certain vibe. And then D3 itself has so many creative people that they come to the space, they hear about an event, and they say, okay, well, I want to do an event like this. And it just kind of goes from there, where different events come to us. We always wanted in D3 that One Life be associated with interesting events, cultural events, because it kind of then can elevate it from more than just a restaurant or cafe. It's kind of a restaurant, a cafe, it's a workspace. A lot of people work from there on a regular basis. I know companies that worked from there for 2 years. They didn't pay us any rent, but they bought a lot of coffee. But really, 2 years, every day they would come, 9 o'clock, they're there until 6 o'clock. Until for some of them, for example, they grew enough to afford an office. And so over time, when you don't have a high staff turnover, like so including me, okay, fine, I'm not an employee, but I've been there for 8 years. Kelvin's been there for 8 years. Many of our staff have been there for 3, 4, 5 years. Then the faces become familiar, and you know, if we were changing staff every 6 months or 1 year, I don't think we would have the same sense of community.
Yeah, interesting. So you're something unique, really, in the UAE market. I can definitely say that.
You think so? But
Yeah.
no, there's a lot of, like, I go to a lot of other places where I know the staff, and I don't know, like.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking in the perspective that I visited lots of coffee shops, and they are like individual project with just a cafe. Yeah, but you do something for like for people, which is not quite, I don't know, popular here. There are projects, of course, but I think it's nice. I mean,
what's it like in Russia, in St. Petersburg?
There are lots of things.
But you see like the same people in the same shops, or it's like students working in coffee shops? Or?
It depends on the concept, right? So we have some coffee shops where you can find these coffee professionals around. So there are lots of co-working areas and etc. Yeah, but we have different culture, and here's the different market. And to me, it's really interesting to compare like my culture and this international culture, because in my city especially, it's just only one nation, normally like 90%, let's say. But yeah, here you deal with different nationalities, And speaking of the taste as well, like developing menu, I think you're also not struggling, but you are thinking, right? Like how to do that, how I make them to be happy with the taste of my food and etc. Like kind of conscious approach. Have you got any challenges like within 7 years of your project, let's say?
Every day.
Every day is a challenge. What was the most memorable one?
The biggest challenge for us is, I don't know if it's a Dubai challenge or it's a One Life challenge, is you have, highs and lows in terms of sales in your business. So for example, in our D3 location, our weekdays are much stronger than our weekends. In our JVC location, our weekends are stronger than our weekdays. So managing those highs and lows from a staffing and a costing perspective, that's a bit of a challenge. Rising food costs is always a challenge. Like sometimes we have to, or all the time, we have to pass on those costs to our customers. We cannot really afford to absorb when the price of salmon jumps by 30-40%. We cannot really afford to absorb that cost on our end. So that's a challenge. Every year kind of becomes more expensive and you have to raise your prices. You have to deal with every time a staff member leaves, there's a visa cost associated with a new one coming. You could get a visa for someone, they could quit in 2 months. You don't get the money back. Dubai is an expensive place to do business, but there is business to be done. So in the sense that it compensates for the cost of doing business. But you always have this, risk of cash flow. Summers are very, very difficult always. Everyone leaves in, July, August. So every summer you have to be prepared to make sure you're, a bit careful with how you spend money. And then also when you're trying to expand the business, I mean, for 8 years we've expanded. We expanded in 2019 from the small One Life to the big One Life. Then obviously we had Corona. Then in 2021 we built a bar downstairs. In 2022 we built JVC. Then 2023 now we built a kitchen upstairs in our mezzanine. So we're always trying to invest back in the business and trying to grow the business. But like you said at the very beginning, Dubai is a very competitive market. You have an incredible number of amazing cafes, restaurants, coffee shops. So it's extremely tough to get people to stay excited about your brand after 8 years, right? Because as a consumer, you're saying, hey, I heard about this place that just opened on Beach Road, and you and your friends, you want to check it out. We're not the new kid on the block anymore. We're, 8 years old, which in Dubai terms is not new. It's not new. So exciting people to come, especially to a business district in D3 on a weekend, that's always been our biggest challenge. But earlier this year, I don't know if you follow, they announced a bunch of residential buildings coming to D3. Did you see them? The ads were everywhere. No. That'll make a big difference. I mean, for me, I said D3 for me is the best place to work in Dubai. I also think it's a proven concept, and I think people will want to live there. So I'm really happy that I think it's Miras with Dubai Holding, or Miras is under Dubai Holding. They're building residential there. I think it's a great place for people to work. It's very close to the city center, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening in D3. So that'll make a difference. But that's the number one challenge for us, is to get people to our D3 location on a weekend. And evenings can sometimes be tough as well.
Yeah, and is it linked with your marketing strategy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have some responsible person for that, or you create all together with the team some events and products or offers, etc.?
For events, we've tried many different approaches, and the final approach that I've decided to try is to do it myself. So a lot of times we'll partner with other people for events, which is, a very, someone will have a poetry society. So we'll say, come do your poetry event in One Life. Someone will have something in comedy, in movies. There's a concept called Film Feast, where a guy, he will show a movie and then he'll serve you food that features in the movie, during the movie. So there's so many creative people out there doing things that are more creative than things that we would come up with. We sometimes partner with them and let them do an event in our space, and then sometimes we come up with our own concepts. So for example, one concept we have is called the listening room. Every Sunday from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. we have 2 DJs playing vinyl records. And at the same time, in the winter, we have a barbecue, and in the summer, we have a Sunday roast. So that's been going on for a few months now, and so every Sunday, that's an event we have. Why? Because on Sunday, it's not a busy day for us, so we do an activity to attract people to come there. Going forward, obviously, that's a huge part of our plan. We have a very big space in D3, and we want to activate the space at all off-peak times. So evenings and weekends, we're always up for doing different events to attract people to the space.
Okay. Also, the interesting part for me is numbers about the business. So most of the people, they think that if you have a cafe or you have a just coffee shop or a cafe with kitchen, you will rapidly earn money. So what can you tell about that? Like, what is the first part of an investment? Like, you need to invest in the equipment, in staff, in the rent, and how long it takes to actually earn money. Because lots of people really, they think, okay, you have a coffee shop, you're probably very rich. And
I'll let you know when I start. I think from the outside, it looks extremely attractive. It looks like a very easy job and easy money.
Yeah.
The truth is, it's extremely enjoyable. I love my job. I love going to work every day. I don't remember the last time I woke up and I didn't want to go to work. I enjoy it despite the fact that there's very difficult things to deal with every day. So I think no matter what job you do in the world, there's good parts of your job and bad parts of your job. You have to be able to accept the bad parts and enjoy the good parts to have a job that you like. So the bad parts of my job is, for example, having to let someone go. If there's any issues with a customer, you get very angry customers. It's not easy when you come from a corporate or office background where you're sitting behind a computer to all of a sudden you're in front of a customer who's angry and they're shouting at you and potentially insulting you. It can ruin your day. But if you can accept these and everything, it's a good job. I very much enjoy it. In terms of money, when you run a business, there are a tremendous amount of costs that you wouldn't think of. So for example, you might sit in a restaurant, you order eggs on toast, and you say, okay, they're charging me 50 dirhams for an eggs on toast. It's 2 eggs, a piece of bread, half an avocado. You do the maths in your head. This thing is costing them 6-7 dirhams, and they're charging me 50 dirhams for it. They're killing it. They're making so much money. Yes, but you're paying rent for that space. You're paying a staff member to do that. What if that guy doesn't sell 100 eggs on toast a day, he only sells 10? All your fixed costs have to be diluted by the number of customers you sell to, right? So the more customers you have, the more you can dilute your fixed costs and the more affordable you can make the product for the customer. But apart from that, when you cook your eggs on toast at home, you're not paying someone monthly to come and clean your grease trap, someone to come and do pest control in your kitchen 2 times per week. All of these other costs. You're not paying for every single Visa member a business license. When you take all these costs, a lot of them are smaller costs, 2,000 dirhams a month, 5,000 dirhams a month, But when you add them all up and you look at your profit and loss, it's a big chunk. So in the end, if you really want an answer, if you're selling 100 dirhams, ideally you want to spend 10 dirhams on rent, 25 dirhams on staff, 30 dirhams on food cost. What does that give you? 65. Okay, now you have 35 left. From that 35, you've got to pay all your license costs, your grease trap, all of these other costs. And in my view, if from 100 dirhams you can put 15 dirhams in your pocket, then you have a very successful business. Honestly, in hospitality, I'm not talking about other sectors. First of all, from the 100 dirhams, if you can make more than zero, already you're doing well. Really, like if you're profitable, you're doing well. Then the question is how profitable. If you can keep 15 to 20% of your sales, that's extremely healthy.
Yeah.
But people might think like, no, you're keeping at least 50, 60%. That's not the case.
Yeah, I think maybe some people, they don't realize that how much money you need to spend before you sell the product. Yeah, and they think, I think the biggest mistake people don't calculate when they open up the restaurant or a coffee shop. Like they think like, okay, I buy a coffee machine and a small kitchen and I will have money. But they don't calculate like even the a napkin or you. I think maybe it's my part, but correct me if I'm wrong, that you need to calculate everything, like how much amount of electricity you spend doing the coffee. Otherwise, you will lose a lot. You will think that, okay, I have customers, I make money, but you don't realize how much money you actually earn.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people wouldn't go into this business if they knew all the truth or all the costs. I wouldn't have gone into it myself. That's why it's an advantage not to know. It's better not to know. Find out afterwards when it's already too late and you already started. Because the truth is, I don't regret doing this business at all. In the end, it's a painful journey the first 3 to 5 years. You learn a lot. You learn that things are not as easy as you thought they were. But if you knew how difficult it was and you didn't take that step in the first place, or you were scared to take that step, I probably would have been. I would regret that now. Because after the difficult period, once you actually start to make money and you know a little bit how to make money, it's a very enjoyable business. And you work in a coffee shop, which is, for me, like, I mean, that's where I want to be. That's where I was when I was working in a company. I would spend all my money in a coffee shop anyway. I'd be going to coffee shops every day. So you get to spend time where you want to be, and you get to meet all these interesting people. But yeah, it's not as easy as you think, but it's also not as difficult as you think. You know what I mean? Like, you have the potential to kind of overcome the challenges that come with a hospitality business. Like, I'm talking about someone who maybe is out there thinking about it, or even to myself, like maybe if I 8 years ago knew what I was going to go through for the next 8 years, I'd be like, there's no way I can do it. But in the end, you can, you're capable of doing more than you think you can.
Yeah, true. Speaking of costs and P&L plan, so what is the biggest investment monthly you have in your 2 locations?
Staff cost.
Staff cost, yes, the biggest.
Yeah. So salaries is our highest cost. But
not even rent, because in some places rent is the first.
Look, rent is a little bit of a misconception. Like, ideally, you want to be paying 8 to 10, let's say 8 to 12% rent. There's no way, I don't think there's any way you can get your staff cost to 8 to 12%. And there's no way you can also get your food cost to 8 to 12%. Because food cost 8 to 12% means like either you're buying really cheap products or your prices are very, very high for what you're selling. Yeah. So rent should always be your third cost, not your first or your second. I guess for some places food cost is higher than staff cost, but in our case staff cost is higher than food cost.
Mm-hmm. How do you effectively control your expenses without compromising the quality?
The number one way is to sell more. So if you have a minimum number of staff that you need to run your business, and they can sell 10,000 dirhams a day or 100,000 dirhams a day. I mean, not necessarily the same number of staff,
Mm-hmm.
but if there's a level of staffing that you need, but you can always sell a bit more with that same level of staff. Then you can get that ratio right. But it's very difficult if you're selling less to just continuously get rid of staff, because at the end of the day, you need a barista. You
Yeah.
cannot have half a barista or a quarter of a barista. You need minimum one barista per shift. So in the end, selling more is the best way, I think, to control your costs. When it comes to food costs, I think you need to be very conscious about building a culture within your organization where they understand that everything you waste or misuse or overuse or something that you let expire or you don't practice first in, first out, all of these things are costing the business that pays your salary. It's costing the business that pays your salary. So in the future, if you ask for a salary increase or you want a promotion or something, all those things matter. It's not easy to build a culture of being cost conscious, because the reality is most of us don't grow up very cost conscious. I mean, it depends on your background, what kind of family you came from. It doesn't actually depend on whether you were rich or poor growing up. So you could have been rich growing up, but you're very careful with throwing food in the bin or wasting. Or you could have been, not so rich growing up, but you're if it's someone else's money, you don't really care. Building that culture has been a challenge, but I think we're doing a better job of it now. But also then tracking everything you sell to a recipe. So even if you're talking coffee only, okay, I'm selling a cappuccino. How much milk goes into a cappuccino? How many grams of coffee goes into the cappuccino? How much grams of coffee am I using to calibrate the machine first thing in the morning? Is what I'm using hypothetically the same as what I'm using in reality? If not, where? Maybe you're using 6 liters of milk a day. You don't know where it's going. Once you kind of can stay on top of your sales and your costs matching each other, like your sales should reflect on the recipes that you have, over time your hypothetical food cost and your actual food cost can start to become closer, even though there will always be a difference.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I wanted to ask how to, let's say, maybe my question will be another one. What advice will be for people, like for aspiring entrepreneurs who are entering the hospitality industry? What would you say for them? Like, what will be your main advice? Because especially in the Middle East, everyone wants to have a coffee shop, a cafe, a restaurant.
Look, I would say one thing: don't view it as a passive income. There is this concept of passive income. You do something and then you can sit on the beach while money just comes in. I would advise against that. I think if you're not willing to be active in your business, in this business in particular, don't do it. Because you may have an idea. Once you put that idea into the market, you need to be there to see, does the market want your idea? Are they willing to pay money for your idea? And if they're not, you need to be quick to be able to change it, to adapt it, to make it more attractive. And that's a constant thing, because the market is changing. So every year you need to be better than what you were last year. If you stay the same, the market is already improving. I mean, again, maybe you haven't been here long, but people who have been here for 10, 15, 20 years know the pizza you can get in Dubai is different to the pizza you could get 5 years ago. The burgers you can get, the coffee you can get. I mean, specialty coffee maybe wasn't even a thing in Dubai 10 years ago. So in every sphere of hospitality and F&B, everyone is improving all the time. So if you're not willing to be active in your business, I think that's the number one reason that you might fail. If you're active and you're there every day and you're in touch with customers and you know what they're saying and what they want and what they like and what they don't like, then you can make decisions that affect your business in a positive way.
Yeah, true. What do you think, like the overview of the Middle East, and maybe in particular Dubai hospitality industry? Do you think it's there is a room still for nice coffee places, or we are oversaturated with restaurants which are opening, I think, daily here?
Look, in the end, I think it's good for the consumer. Like for the business owner, you could argue it both ways, but in the end, it will be survival of the best restaurants, the best coffee shops will survive, and the consumer will benefit. For me personally, we opened in D3 when it was us and one other restaurant. 2 places you can get coffee in the whole of D3. Okay, the population